Hello then, good afternoon ladies and gentlemen. This is L24 World News Program. It is Tuesday, the 31st of May 2022, coming to you live from Algiers with these top stories. EU leaders agree on 90% embargo on Russian oil by the end of the year. The ban is the sixth round of sanctions imposed by the EU against Moscow. While around 60 people, among them families of the victims of the Beirut port explosion, Lebanon's new legislators narrowly elected veteran Shiite Muslim politician Nabi Berri for a seventh term as a Speaker of Parliament. At least 91 people have lost their lives due to the heavy rainfall and the flooding in the northeastern part of Brazil. Heavy rains are expected to continue for the next few days. UEFA has announced it has commissioned an independent report into the events surrounding the UEFA Champions League final in Paris. Hello again and welcome. I'm Abdurrahim Kashur and those were today's top stories. First, European Union leaders agreed on an oil embargo on Russia, sealing a deal in the early hours of Tuesday that aims to cut 90% of Russia's basic imports into the bloc by the end of 2022. However, the deal excludes from the embargo shipments by pipeline, which Hungary relies on for Russian oil. Nabil Khazini has more to tell.
After night talks in Brussels, the European Union has agreed to an embargo on most Russian oil imports. The embargo covers Russia's oil brought into the bloc by sea, with an exception to be made for imports delivered by pipeline, following a position from Hungary.
I'm very glad that the leaders were able to agree in principle on the six sanctions package. This is very important. Thanks to this, Council should now be able to finalize a ban on almost 90% of all Russian oil imports by the end of the year.
European Union leaders surrendered to the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, following his demands to grant Budapest a near-total exemption from a new embargo on Russian oil.
And now, out of blue, we have got the idea of embargo and sanctions on oil, without answering the questions which related to the Hungarian energy supply security. So the whole situation we are in is a difficult one created by the Commission, and the responsibility of not having agreement today must be and will be in the shoulder of the Commission.
But although the exception technically applies to all pipeline oil, officials said that Germany and Poland had voluntarily agreed to stop all purchases of Russian oil by the end of the year. The European bloc has come under increasing criticism for slow progress in agreeing the latest sanctions package, including from Volodymyr Zelensky, who addressed the gathering on Monday by video link.
Approving new sanctions in Europe has taken too long. The fifth sanctions package was presented on April 8th. A lot of time has therefore passed without the European sanctions against Russia being reinforced.
The package includes penalties, including a cut of Sberbank, Russia's largest consumer bank, from the SWIFT international payment system. Since the outbreak of the war in Ukraine, the European Union has increased sanctions against Moscow, hitting Russian companies, banking sector and Russia's exports. To strike hard, the EU intends to put an end to its purchases of Russian oil.
Russia's energy company Gazprom said Monday that it would suspend the gas supply to Dutch energy company Gazprom from Tuesday after the latter refused to pay in rubles. Gazprom said that they did not receive any payment from Gazprom for the gas supplied in April by the end of the working day on Monday. Thus, they decided to suspend gas delivery until payment is made as required. Denmark's largest gas suppliers could be next. In a phone call between the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin, Mr. Erdogan expressed his country's willingness to take on a role in possible observation mechanism if Moscow, Kiev and the United Nations agree to hold a meeting in Istanbul. In another phone call with his Ukrainian president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan told Volodymyr Zelensky that he placed value on a project to create a safe sea route for exporting Ukrainian agricultural goods. As Russian forces advanced eastward, key cities of Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, residents of these latter find themselves among Russian and Ukrainian artillery and rocket fire as confrontation continued to take place in the eastern region of the Ukraine. This comes after Ukraine requested rocket systems which can reach Russian lands and refusal of US President Joe Biden.
Russian forces intensified their military operation with barrages of heavy artillery to capture a key Ukrainian city in the southeastern region of Donbass, whose full takeover Moscow's top diplomat says was now an unconditional priority. Ukraine says its forces are fighting fierce battles with Russian troops around Severodonetsk in eastern Luhansk region. At least 6 civilians have been reportedly killed and 8 wounded in the region amid the stepped-up fighting. Russian military acknowledged that it had launched cruise missiles at Dnipropetrovsk and Zaporizhia.
The people were resting, sleeping, somebody went to work, there was a rocket, it made impact and we have what you see. This is the second time. The windows were broken at first, then we put wooden planks, and this time there is nothing to put the planks on. Now everything is destroyed. We are like bums. I've been working for 38 years at the railway, and what did I earn? Where should I go? The only thing left is to hang by myself. Nobody needs us. Nobody. Who will help us? Nobody will help us.
Meanwhile, Ukraine's intelligence claims Russia took bodies of dead soldiers, equipment from sunken Moskva cruiser. Russia has offered to unblock Ukrainian ports in exchange for the West, lifting its sanctions against Moscow. The battle for Severodonetsk, which lies in the eastern bank of Seversky Donets River, is in the spotlight as Russia ekes out slow but solid gains in the part of the country close to the Russian border. Donetsk governor said in a Facebook post on Tuesday morning that an overnight missile strike on the city of Slovyansk in the eastern Donetsk region killed at least 3 people and wounded 6 more. US President Joe Biden says he will not send rocket systems to Ukraine that could hit targets inside Russian territory, despite Kyiv's urgent demands for long-range weapons, as Russia stated that the decision was rational.
We're not going to send to Ukraine rocket systems that can strike into Russia.
Russian forces, on the other hand, continue their advancement, equipped with heavy weaponry as they succeeded in reaching deeper in Ukraine, taking control of more territory and tightening their grip on Ukrainian resistance, which seems to be less effective.
Germany's governing coalition and the main opposition party have reached a deal that will release $107 billion in military spending. The significant boost in defense spending aims at modernizing the German army and will also allow Berlin to meet NATO's target of spending 2% of gross domestic products on defense. On her visit to Kiev, the new head of French diplomacy, Catherine Colonna, announced that France will continue strengthening its arms deliveries to Ukraine. French Foreign Minister condemns Russia's war in crimes in Ukraine. She told press conference that French President Emmanuel Macron has communicated his decision to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky about the delivery of weapons.
We must continue to make the cost to Russia of the continuation of this unbearable aggression. That is the whole point of the sanctions. They will be of an unprecedented scale, and they will target the Russian power and all those who contribute to this war. France is not at war with Russia any more than its allies. It's not, but our commitment is strong to support Ukraine by providing it with the defense equipment it needs to defend itself.
French and Ukrainian officials said that a French journalist has been killed during a Russian assault that struck a vehicle evacuating civilians from eastern Ukraine. Andrei Martushko, a spokesperson for the self-declared People's Republic of Lugansk, told the Russian news agency TASS that it was unlikely Frederick Luklarimov was a journalist and claimed could have been delivering arms to Ukrainian forces. French President Emmanuel Macron announced this on his Twitter account and condemned the act. The newcomers to Lebanon's parliament said they plan to form a unified bloc to strengthen their influence in parliament, but it won't be easy considering what they are up against. There were 13 independent newcomers who won seats in parliament buildings on the protest movements seeking to break the long power of traditional factions that emerged from the Lebanese civil war a generation ago. The unexpectedly strong showing by civil society activists resulted some hopes among hopeless Lebanese that change in the ill country is possible. But the promising reform movement is split and faces enormous challenges in fighting a rooted ruling clique. Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Shtayyeh has described attacks by the far-right Zionists in occupied East al-Quds as an aggression which crossed all red lines. Tens of thousands of flag-waving ultra-nationalist Zionists raided the Muslim quarter of the Old City on Sunday during the so-called Flag March. The provocative march that took place in around Al-Aqsa Mosque compound is meant to celebrate the occupation and subsequent annexation of East al-Quds in 1967, a move that has not been recognized by the international community. Shanghai announced an end to its 2-month-long COVID-19 lockdown, allowing the vast majority of people in China's largest city to leave their homes and drive their cars from Wednesday. And Beijing announced relaxing COVID restriction over the weekend as cases count dropped, bringing an outpouring relief and joy to the residents. Most of the city's 25 million residents have been confined to their homes for almost 2 months. In Australia, the Labour Party under Anthony Albanese has secured a majority in government with at least 76 seats in the House of Representatives. Despite a record non-major party vote and the crossbench, Albanese has previously said a slim majority was a very good thing for stability in the country. Sudan's Transitional Self-Governing Council has announced the lifting of a state of emergency that was imposed 7 months ago. The country's ruling Security and Defense Council said on Sunday that the decision was made at a meeting headed by Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the council's chairman. He has also released 128 political detainees after months of detention under the state of emergency. However, the council, in its statement, said the lifting of the state of emergency should not contradict laws related to security issues or criminal laws. The United States is planning on cooperation between its National Guard and Taiwan's military. Taiwan President Tsai Ing-wen said on Tuesday, deepening security ties in the face of what Taipei's government complains is rising threat from China. Tsai met with visiting U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth at her office in Taipei and noted that Duckworth was one of the main sponsors of the Taiwan Partnership Act, which had received bipartisan support in the U.S. Congress but has yet to become law.
We look forward to closer and deeper Taiwan-US cooperation on matters of regional security. At the same time, to address challenges of the post-pandemic era, Taiwan and the US have reviewed and assessed the many facets of our trade cooperation.
I will close by saying that there is tremendous support for Taiwan within the legislative branch. Our president has shown his support for Taiwan. You've heard from our military, And as a member of the legislative branch, I will tell you it is a bipartisan agreement that the USA should stand with Taiwan. And I sort of wanted to symbolize that by wearing my plum blossom pin and my US Senate pin together side by side as partners.
China staged its second largest invasion into Taiwan's air defense zone. 30 Chinese military aircraft entered the southern area of Taiwan's air defense in the identification zone, prompting Taiwan's defense ministry to scramble its own air force and deploy air defense missile systems. China's deployment comes after Taipei signaled its intention to strengthen security relations with the US, in which China condemned and sees it as an act which could destabilize the region.
Taiwan is a province of China. Where did the president come from? The visit to Taiwan from the relevant members of the U.S. Congress seriously violates the One China principle and the three senior U.S. joint communique. The Chinese side is strongly dissatisfied with and firmly opposed to this, and has lodged stern representations with the U.S. side.
The Canadian government announced on Monday a national freeze on handgun sales and purchases as part of new firearm control measures meant to fight rising gun violence in Canada. The new legislation comes just a week after the school shooting, which left 19 children and 2 teachers dead in their classroom in Uvalde, Texas, USA.
We're introducing legislation to implement a national freeze on handgun ownership. What this means is that it will no longer be possible to buy, sell, transfer, or import handguns anywhere in Canada. In other words, we're capping the market for handguns.
Gustavo Petro won the first round of the Colombian presidential election on May 29 with a 40% advantage, just as polls anticipated, whereas Rodrigo Hernandez came in second with 28% of the vote. Supporters of both candidates are looking forward to the second round of elections and hoping for a real change in their country.
With the majority of the votes, left-wing candidate Gustavo Petro won round 1 of Colombian presidential elections this Sunday.
We are very happy because today Petro and Francia won, and we hope that in the second round they will also be the winners because they are the ones who will govern Colombia.
62-year-old Petro, an economist, a senator, and the former mayor of Bogota, promised planning a radical change of social and economic direction if he becomes president. The left-wing candidate won over 40% of the vote, while Hernandez, a former mayor of Bucaramangas, got 28%. Rodolfo Hernandez, an independent candidate, will be contesting round 2 against him this June.
The second round is going to be very interesting in terms of skills, because we are going to see who promises what and who really knows what our country needs.
Supporters of Hernandez are optimists for the second round of the elections.
He was a very good mayor here, so it's very good, because thanks to him, people were able to work, and street sellers have stopped working illegally.
Muy emocionada.
Looking forward to what will happen because people did not expect these results.
The independent candidate is vowing to combat corruption and balance deep social inequality with the skills of a successful businessman. On June 19, Colombian voters will decide who of these two will lead and run the country for the next 4 years.
Dozens of firefighters and volunteers are still conducting a search operation to find the missing people due to the heavy mudslide which washed everything away on Saturday and killed more than 90 persons. Islam Seed has more to tell.
Following the torrential rains which devastated the region of Recife in northeast Brazil, death toll has increased to 91 while 22 people are still missing, and the search continues under very difficult circumstances.
Never before had so much rain fallen in such a short time. I live close to here. I know everyone who died, and I saw it all when it happened. During the first landslide, a lot of mud fell, and we thought there would not be as much after that. Then it hit like a tsunami.
The storm caused landslides on the slopes of the hills, the overflowing rivers and large torrents of mud that washed away everything in their path.
I don't sleep and I don't eat because it was such a painful experience. So painful. For me, it was my family. I was very affected by this situation. I've lived here for 40 years and I've never seen such a tragedy. I've known these people since I was a child.
This slide is home to my family, my sister, my father, my niece and my brother. Unfortunately, there are many who have not survived.
Brazilian President Bolsonaro visited the affected area on Monday, where he expressed his condolences and pledged to help.
Obviously, we're all very sad. We express our condolences to the victims' relatives. Our biggest objective is to comfort the relatives and help the population with material resource.
Meanwhile, the Minister for Regional Development, Daniel Ferreira, announced that the government had made approximately $200 million available to help the victims.
First thing to say is that the rain is still planned for the coming days, so self-protection measures must be maintained. People must receive and respect emergency preparedness alerts.
Brazil had already experienced similar tragedies at the beginning of the year, with violent storms during summer, especially in Petrópolis, where 233 people were killed by landslides and floods.
After the airplane that crashed into the Himalayan mountainous area in Nepal, officials said on Tuesday that bodies of all the 22 people have been recovered from the wreckage. The airplane, which carried 2 German, 4 Indians and 16 others Nepalese, crashed minutes after taking off from the town of Bukhara. The Nepali authorities have launched an investigation to determine the cause of this crash. The UEFA has commissioned an independent report into the events surrounding Saturday's Champions League final in Paris. The European governing body has announced on Monday evening. Statements from the European governing body read that the UEFA has commissioned an independent report into the events surrounding the UEFA Champions League final in Paris. The action movie The Squeal of 1986 Top Gun took an estimated $124 million at US box office in the first 3 days and is projected to take around $151 million by the end of the Memorial Day holiday weekend on Monday. Adding that figure to earnings around the world, Top Gun Maverick has so far made around $248 million. With this information, we come to an end to our news. But before that, let's have a reminder for our main top stories. EU leaders agree on 90% embargo on Russian oil by the end of the year. The ban is the 6th round of sanctions imposed by the EU against Moscow. While around 60 people, among them families of the victims of the Beirut port explosion, Lebanon's new legislators narrowly elected veteran Shiite Muslim politician Nabi Berri for a 7th term as a Speaker of Parliament. At least 91 people have lost their lives due to the heavy rainfall and the flooding in the northeastern part of Brazil. Heavy rains are expected to continue for the next few days. That's all we have for now. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.